Okay. Thank you for your patience while I figure out how to accommodate extra storage on my phone so I can record these videos. Anyway, the beginning of my weight loss journey. I received the iron infusion, tested 6 weeks out. My iron levels were great, so we proceeded. And after the surgery, while I waited for the biopsies, I just felt free, and the anxiety about the fibroids were gone, obviously, because the fibroids were gone. So I got back into my comfort zone. All the weight that I had lost that summer from the anxiety of the fibroids started to come back on. I think I lost about 60 pounds from that June to, I believe, that like September, October, November, somewhere in there. I don't know. The surgery was rescheduled. So anyway, I lost about 60 pounds. Put on 30 over the next 3-4 months. That winter, January, February-ish, we went to a wrestling tournament in Stevens Point. And if you've never had an anxiety attack before, it's hard to describe. It's hard to understand what they're like. But that weekend, I felt like I was going crazy. I felt like I either had vertigo or prediabetes or a brain tumor. It was crazy. It was almost an outer body experience. And I know that those who have had anxiety attacks before know exactly what I'm talking about, because since then I have talked to people who have had them. And I had a sister-in-law that shortly after my experience suffered from the exact same thing. And we were both like, yes, like this is, it was so strange. So that Sunday we got to the tournament early. And I sat in the truck with my ex-husband, then husband, and I said, look, this is a speech that I had gone over several times throughout the years. I said, we need to stop eating and living like 12-year-olds. And now looking back, like, why did I always revert to 12? 12 was how old I was when my parents... They got divorced when I was around 10, and then I was back and forth from my mom to my dad's for a little bit, and then I was with my dad, and that my mom just kind of... Anyway, 12 was how old I was when we basically started taking care of and feeding ourselves. No offense to Dad, he did everything he could, but he didn't cook. He just dropped us off at the grocery store and said, "Get what you need." Anyway, I said we need to stop eating and living like 12-year-olds. I kind of gave him the speech. Don't you want to be alive and well enough to walk your daughters down the aisle? All this. I said, we really need to get serious about this. There's something going on with my body, and I know it has to do with my weight. My doctor said the fibroids were not because of my weight, but a simple Google search told me in 2 seconds that yes, in fact, my obesity could have caused the fibroids. There are consequences to living that type of lifestyle and getting to be that size. Even slightly overweight, there's consequences. Anyway, that Monday after the wrestling tournament, I woke him up and I said, look, you're going to have to call in sick to work. I don't know what's going on, but I think I need to go to the emergency room. I don't know if I'm having a heart attack or a stroke or what's going on. You need to take me to the emergency room. So we got the kids ready for bed. He called in, took me to the ER. They took me back right away because I kind of, I basically said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Anyway, as I'm laying there in the bed and they're doing all kinds of tests on me and not really finding anything wrong, one nurse was in the room with me and I said, what do you think is going on with me? I know you can't legally give me a diagnosis, but in your experience, I just sensed something about her that she wanted to say something to me that she maybe shouldn't say or felt out of place saying. But I fished for it. I said, what are you not telling me? Do you see something? What do you think is going on with me? Help me, And she said, if I were you, I would get your blood pressure checked out. And this is something that was reiterated to me over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 months prior was the blood pressure. And just like I was diagnosed with white coat syndrome because my blood pressure was just so high because of the anxiety. But now, like I had my hysterectomy, I had my surgery. Like why was my blood pressure through the roof again? Obviously because I possibly thought I was having a heart attack, but it was still like the constant. And I said, okay, they gave me some medication to help with like the dizziness or like the outer body experience, whatever, what I described as possible vertigo and dizziness. They gave me medications for it. And they told me to follow up with a primary care provider. I found an NP through a good friend who is like-minded, kind of, crunchier, just not really wanting a bunch of pills thrown at me and stuff. She was absolutely amazing. She took me on a guided meditation. She put the blood pressure cuff on my arm, took my blood pressure, took me through a guided meditation, and then took my blood pressure right afterwards. She kept it on during the guided meditation. And my blood pressure was significantly lower after the guided meditation. It was within normal range. When every time my blood pressure was taken over the past 9 to 10 months prior, it was high. I was in stage 1 hypertension for that long. And she said, I definitely think you have anxiety and I think you need to make some lifestyle changes. And it was so refreshing for her to say that to me, because my previous doctor, love you to death, Dr. G, but he found it very hard to be brutally honest with me. I asked him if the fibroids were due to my weight, and he was kind of like, oh, not, he's so sweet. He didn't want to tell me that I needed to lose weight. He would kind of dance his way around it. I'm sorry. I was 350 pounds. I knew I had to lose weight. And it baffled me that he would almost reassure me that wasn't the case. So anyway, I digress. She gave me just some papers on how to make some lifestyle changes. And, prior I had looked into, like Ozempic, and I had actually tried, what's the one, the appetite suppressant. I had tried that prior. My doctor prescribed it for me a few years earlier, and it just made me super jittery, and I would only take it once in a while because I was jittery, and I hated how I couldn't sleep that night if I took the regular dosage. I had considered a gastric bypass. I even looked into going to Mexico. And here's the thing. With the medications that aren't designed for people without diabetes and gastric bypass, they come with side effects. And I know everybody knows this, but ultimately when you're on these medications or when you receive these kind of surgeries, you still have to make the lifestyle changes. They are not quick fixes. And everyone who's looked into this stuff has heard this already. You still have to make the lifestyle changes. When you are on these medications or when you receive these surgeries, there are not only side effects, but then you have to adhere to certain rules. You can't do, like I didn't want to not be able to drink soda. I didn't want all of these restrictions that came with having to get a procedure or being on a medication. To me, it didn't make any sense that I would need these aids when I had to do the work anyway, right? It didn't make sense to me. I was like, I still have to do all of this stuff. I still have to reduce my calorie intake and move my body. And is it that simple? Yes, it really is that simple. You have to reduce your calorie intake and move your body. Like, exercising is not going to make you lose weight. Exercising is going to help reduce the anxiety. It's going to help your cardiovascular health, your mental health. Holy crap. It's amazing. But exercising is just that. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. And what does that really mean? I know that all of you have probably heard that to some extent. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. That means the only way to lose weight, to lose fat, is through your nutrition. You need to reduce your calories. Makes perfect sense, right? So I started by downloading my calorie counting app April 23rd, 2023. And I logged myself in at 326.4 pounds. And I promised myself I would walk 20 minutes a day. I promised myself I would cut out sugary drinks and I would stick with the calories that I was allowed. So the calorie counting app just kind of walked me through that. And then I adjusted accordingly. And then it just spiraled from there. From promising myself that I would walk at least 20 minutes every day, that spiraled into, I'm going to try yoga. I'm going to try HIIT classes at Fire, which weren't for me. More power to anyone that wants to do them. But I just preferred traditional weightlifting. Once I found weightlifting, I really found a new love. So that's really all it was for me, was walking. I mean, how easy, how simple. It really is the best way to improve your cardiovascular health. The more I look into it, the more evidence I am seeing to validate that what I did was exactly what I needed to do. Anyway, that just spiraled into better and better habits. So what did I start out with? It's severe anemia, anxiety, high blood pressure, hypertension, stage 1 hypertension, sleep apnea, heart palpitations, heart murmurs, nerve sensitivity, labored breathing, dizzy spells. All gone. Even a year later, all gone. Last year, April 13th. So April 23rd, 2023 is when I downloaded the Lose It app at 326.4 pounds. And then roughly a year later is when I found my weightlifting trainer. I was recovering from Jones fracture surgery. We went to Disney and I came back with a fracture in my foot. I needed to get a screw implanted, and it was predicted to be a very long recovery. And I spiraled hardcore because I was at about 213 pounds at that point. Like, how amazing. I lost like 113 pounds in a year. And I had so much anxiety about losing that progress because I was recovering from surgery and unable to go for my walks. So I told myself I was just going to focus on the only things that I could control at that point, which were my water intake and my calorie deficit. So I stayed true to that, and I did fantastic. And I cultivated so much self-trust from that. And I still to this day just give myself so much credit for sticking through it, staying on track, and overcoming that adversity and not letting myself spiral or using it as an excuse, because that is a thing. And we excuse bad behavior way too much on the grounds of recovering from surgery or having a bad day or celebrating or whatever. It's Easter today, and I've indulged several times, but it's Easter and I know I'll get back to it tomorrow. I know this about myself now because I've been doing this for 3 years and I've been down this road and I get right back to it the next day. So many people use this as an excuse to spiral and then not get back on track. And that is not cultivating discipline or self-trust. I digress. Once I was cleared to drive, that's when I finally found a weightlifting trainer. Excuse me. I had wanted to learn how to weightlift beforehand. I think like that winter, I reached out to a friend that I knew weightlifted in high school. He was best buddies with my younger brother, and I knew he'd weightlifted. So I asked him, I wanted to tone up my arms and I lost all this weight. I want to like cultivate muscle now. I want muscle, tone, shape, And he gave me a few pointers, but I really just wanted someone to show me how to do it so I could do it on my own and educate me on how to lift weights and get the at that point it was a desired look, I guess, but now it's just turned into a new love, and not so much about the looks and appearance as, you know, how I feel, how strong I'm getting, and how much stronger I want to get, and the cool things that I really want to do with my strength. Stupid little things like a pull up. I really want to do a pull up. Push-ups, I can do about 6. They're pretty labored. I've been trying to work more for my core. It's more about the core and less about the arms. It's a struggle for me though, and I don't understand why, because I'm really strong at this point. Anyway, I digress. I reached out to this friend who gave me a few pointers, but it wasn't just, I needed somebody to hold my hand through the process. So I found a weightlifting trainer almost exactly a year to the day. Yeah. April 23rd, 2023, I downloaded the app. So April 13th, 2024 was when I initially met my weightlifting trainer, and then we started the next week. So, yeah, and now it's April 20th, 2025, and I am now officially down almost 190 pounds. I was recently told that roughly 20 pounds of that is potentially skin. I do have my first skin removal scheduled for this June, and then I was told that I need to wait about 6 months before I can schedule the second skin removal procedure. But it can be done without surgery. It can be done without medications. In fact, that's the way to do it. I've seen so many people struggle to stay on track when utilizing these non-traditional aids, because you're not necessarily, and I don't mean this as a generalization, like a broad spectrum, a blanket statement to talk about everyone. Obviously there are exceptions, but the people that I've seen lose weight when utilizing the aid of surgery or medications that aren't necessarily meant for, someone who, let's all be honest. If you're not diabetic and you don't need the medication, then it's not meant for you. So if you're using it for a different purpose, it's a bit of a crutch. It's a bit of an aid. I feel like you need to do the harder work, or it doesn't stay off. I've seen way too many people lose it and then gain it back, because you're not cultivating the habits and the discipline that it requires to overcome your eating disorder and adhere to new lifestyle changes, because that's ultimately what's going to keep it off, is the lifestyle changes. Do you understand that? That's lifestyle changes. You can't rely on surgeries and medications your entire life. Excuse me. And you need to figure out how you got there in the first place. And it's usually mental, it's usually emotional. And that has been the most difficult part of this journey. I can do anything for 45 minutes, hour, 2 hours. Physically, I have always had the strength and endurance and capability of doing what I did. It's going through the mental and emotional work that has really been the daunting part of this journey. But it needs to be done, or that weight's going to come back, if not all, then some. And I'm not ready for that. I'm not going to let it happen. I can't let it happen. I've worked way too hard for this. So I just need to keep working on finding new coping mechanisms, finding new ways to handle my triggers, finding strength in those moments where you need to step back and observe why you're feeling the things that you're feeling. For me, a big one is anxiety. And when I'm feeling anxious, I need to be self-aware enough to step back and say, okay, why am I feeling anxious? Why am I chewing all this gum today? Why did I pick up vaping? And now I'm, using these vitamin diffusers. I haven't vaped in a month and a half, 2 months-ish. Anyway, drinking, porn, weed, any other kind of coping mechanism that gives you an escape from sitting in your feelings and figuring out why you're having those feelings and just dealing with it. Just dealing with the raw emotion and not trying to medicate it with, any of the coping mechanisms I just mentioned, as well as others. That's been my journey lately, and it's been really good. It's been really good. The bad days are the best, honestly. They don't feel good in the moment, but they allow for the most growth, and they give me an opportunity to do better every time. And they give me an opportunity to cultivate that much more self-trust and discipline. And they enable me to help others that much more as well. And that truly is a gift. And I'm no longer ashamed of how big I got. I'm proud of that 350-pound woman for doing what she needed to do to get where I am today. Because it was hard. It was hard after being so sick for so long. She really pulled through for herself and her kids and her life. And hopefully I can help others by sharing my journey. I'm 42, perimenopausal. I did it all on my own. I did it all on my own. And that's pretty crazy, but it's doable. I mean, if I can do it at 350 pounds, then anyone can do it, right? There's no reason why anybody else can't do it. And that's one thing I've always told myself throughout anything that I was afraid to do. New schools, new homes, new relationships, just getting through things in general. Going through my C-section and then VBACing 2 babies later, doing all the things that I did with, nursing, tandem nursing through pregnancies. I just kept telling myself, if other people can do it, there's no reason that I can't. That was one thing that really dawned on me before I started this weight loss journey, because I've struggled with my weight my entire life. I've lost weight, gained it back. I've been there before. Never this big of a weight loss for this long, and it didn't come with all of these lifestyle changes. But anyway, I saw a news segment about a gentleman in another Midwestern state who was at an amusement park with his kids, and he couldn't fit on a roller coaster ride, and he promised his son or daughter that next summer I'll fit. He promised them that, and it was so inspiring to me. He lost a ton of weight. I can't remember the exact numbers. It was very inspiring, and I was in the exact same boat. I didn't fit on the Zip and Pippin at Bay Beach, and my kids were always like, why can't you go with me? And I was like, I don't like roller coaster rides. I fucking love roller coaster rides. I can't do the 3D, the simulators. No, I can't. I'll go on roller coasters all day. I fucking love roller coasters. I always have. So it broke my heart that I couldn't go on the Zip and Pippin with my kids because I didn't fit. And holy fucking embarrassing. embarrassing, just to even tell them that, sorry, mom doesn't fit, And my ex at the time, well, my husband at the time, now ex, he, I'm sure he was frustrated too, because he would then have to ride those rides with my kids, and he didn't always want to. He doesn't like roller coasters. But he's a good dad, so he did it because they wanted someone to go with him. Anyway, I digress. I made the same promise to my kids. I said, next summer, guys. Next summer, I'll fit. And I did. I chaperoned their field trip the following June. And I went on the Zippin' Pippin. And it nearly gave me whiplash. And I loved every second of it. And I was on cloud nine because I fit. I've just barely fit. But I fucking fit. And now I fit and there's room. And those are small seats. I'm sorry, but Zippin' Pippin was not made for Midwestern gals, let me tell you. Anyway, the point of my story is that man was an inspiration to me among many, many others. And I've been told so many times throughout the past few years that I've been an inspiration to others as well. And that is so rewarding. I'm not going to say the most rewarding thing that has come over the past few years, because it definitely isn't. There's so many, just like the pride that my kids have, and just there's so many other rewarding things that I would just love to share on another video, but this one's already approaching a half hour. But being an inspiration to others who are struggling with similar issues, being told that I helped them just to even make changes for that day, it's a baby step in the right direction. And baby steps is how you get there. It really is. It's baby steps. It's promising yourself you'll walk 20 minutes every day. It's promising yourself that you're going to eat less calories, and just doing better and better every time that you can. Just don't give up. Don't stop. One bad day does not mean you're going to do everything. It doesn't mean fuck it, we're done. That's not how this works. There's no deadline. Anyway, I thought I'd share my story since so many have asked. And when I get up the energy and the courage, will definitely be sharing more, because holy shit, there is more. As those of you who are actually in my life and have been observing my life and the changes over the past 5, 10, even 3 years, even this past year, lots and lots to talk about another day. Hope this helps anyone. Reach out if you have any questions. I love them.